let's continue on the topic of developing pay levels. This is a big deal. It really is a balancing act between internal and external equity as you go through. If they have an employee who's looking outside the organization and they're looking at, well, the grass is greener and so is the cash as it goes through, pay attention to what's going on. If you have great benefit packages, advertise them to the internal candidates and the external. Make certain they know how good they have it. A pension plan, yes. Health care, you have dental care and vision as you go through. Not only that, you can have any color crown that you want, a silver, a gold, or even one goes to your teeth as you go through. Yes, you can put a stallion on your teeth if you want to with our dental plan. You can't really do that. But that being said, if you have a great benefit package, tell the people inside and remind them how good they have it as you go through. All that is part of this aspect of making certain that you have market surveys out there. You want to make certain that they perceive that you are at least as good as the top end people in your industry as you go through, and maybe even better in some areas. You don't have to be the very highest paying, but you sit down, it has to be the most appealing if you're going to retain your top talent as you go through. Now, the other part, though, is you have this internal balancing mechanism you have to have. Typically, it's easy enough to go outside the organization and gather data in a market basket study of 7, 10, 12, 17 different institutions that are similar to yours as you go through. That's easy enough to do, but on key jobs. But every once in a while, you have what's called non-key jobs, and it's not that they're not important. It's just that there's not a lot of data for this unique job title over here as you go through. You have one job title. You may have a chief development engineer of software in name a language as you go through. Who knows what it might be, but it could be a unique job. You need to make certain that those people don't feel that because they have this unique job and somebody else gets a pay raise or a bump that you've ignored them as you go through. Make certain that you have a sense of internal equity as you go through, as well as an external equity as you go through. A lot of times on these pay policy lines, you need to have a consistent graph that goes up the pay scale, and it should be based on knowledge, skills, and abilities as you go through. That being said, you may have a key job. You need to figure out exactly what are the skills in the job and what are they comparable to internally and what are they comparable to externally as well as you go through. So pay attention to the graph. Sometimes you just sit down and take a pay scale and you map it out as you go through, seeing where people fall on the line in the process as you go through. Pay grades, that's grouping jobs into pay classes. A really easy one is administrative help as you go through. You may have an office clerk at the bottom level, and the very top level you have an executive assistant as you go through. Office clerical staff as you go through, administrative assistant, senior administrative assistant, executive assistant. That is a pay group. You group them into things where you go through, if they stay in the same type of job, they would tend to progress from office clerk to administrative assistant to senior administrative assistant to executive assistant as you go through. So they have that pay group, and so you classify them as a package. And you can also sit down and go out and look for just the executive assistant position in your market basket, and also sit down and bring them down 5% or 10% by the executive assistant pays this amount of money and the senior administrative assistant gets 10% less and the administrative assistant gets paid 10% less. It depends how you want to structure it. You can start at the bottom and then go up, but you want to sit down and have a progression as you go through within the same job grouping as you go through. You also typically have a range spread, especially at the higher levels as you go through. If you have an executive assistant, and I have to tell you, the ones I've had over the years, they have been worth their weight in gold, although I didn't have much gold to toss their way. So you have to have nice range spread at the very top because you want to keep them around as you go through the whole progression. So you need to have pay grades, you need to have job groups, you also need to have a range spread, a little bit like this as you go through. you can see the different classifications. Here's one level. Oh, progression to the next level, progression to the next level, progression to the next level. And then within those levels, you have a spread of pay on the inside, maybe up to 10 different ranges in the same group as you go through. So let's say, for instance, if you look on the job evaluation points, on the very top one, you're at 310 to 350 as you go through. You got 40 different points in there. Maybe you take every 4 points, you have a 5% increase, 5% increase, 5% increase, 5% increase. You have a simple pay grade structure with classes, and then you have them going up the range, and then you have a range on the inside as you go through. Sometimes there's a conflict between the market pay surveys or the market baskets as you go through and the job evaluation. You can't always find exactly the same thing. Pay attention, because who are you hiring and what kind of talent do you plan on bringing into the jobs that you currently have? Watch your supply and demand as you go through. If all of a sudden there's a spike in logistics out there and you have a few logistics technicians, do you have a technician specialist that deals with this over here in logistics as well on top of that? Do you have a senior logistics specialist? Do you have somebody at the very epitome of that? What about your management staff? Sometimes your management staff, they may not be getting paid overtime like the lower levels, and sometimes lower levels can earn overtime and work the same numbers of management, 50 hours a week, and all of a sudden they're making more money than management. It is up to you, up to the supervision also, to make certain that you're going through and you have an equitable pay structure for compared to external and internal as you go through in the process as you go through. You need to see and know what's going on. There should also be an expectation clearly told to all your supervisory and management staff as to, if you see a pay inequity, come let me know as you go through. Monitor the compensation costs as you go through. Pay attention to the other part of what is going on around the world as you go through. Sometimes you have massive inequities, $100,000 in the salary schedule between New York City and Mumbai, India, and they have the same job title as you go through. How do you pay attention to that? If you want somebody to go from New York City, where they have a fabulous life and everything else, and you plunge them into Mumbai all of a sudden, are you going to sit down and make certain they have a fabulous life there as well? Because of the fact that one employee is fine, but an employee with a family, all of a sudden, the whole world is different because you're going to move their family as well, or be estranged from them for years as you go through. Pay attention to what's going on over there. Developing pay levels should be market-based pay grades. Have job classes as you go through. Make certain the evaluation has an impact on the overall pay structure. And then globalization hits a whole series of things that if you have a global HR department, you need to pay attention to the pay, the culture, the transferability, and make certain that the home office really can compare it, because you don't want to take your best talent, ship them out to some other country, and all of a sudden they missed out on giant pay opportunities and promotion opportunities at the home office. It's a balancing act, and only the finest can survive and thrive. Take care.